The cafeteria was alive with chatter and clattering trays. But one boy sat alone, clutching his backpack like it carried his entire world. His hoodie hung loose on his thin shoulders, his hair shadowing his eyes, his food untouched. No one noticed him except for the German shepherd who walked in seconds later. The canine's ears flicked, his nose twitched, and in that instant, the room's noisy chaos narrowed to a single corner where the boy's hands trembled against the fabric of that bag. Officers followed the dog's lead, their presence turning laughter into silence. What was hidden in that backpack would stun an entire school, expose the quiet pain of a child desperate to save what he loved most, and prove that sometimes it takes a dog's instinct to uncover truths no one else can see. If you believe in the courage of Canine South like Rex, subscribe to Shepherd Legacy, and tell us in the comments, which city are you listening from right now? It was a Wednesday afternoon at Brookfield Elementary, the kind of day when the cafeteria buzzed so loud it was almost impossible to hear yourself think. Children laughed, shouted across tables, sneakers squeaked on polished linoleum, and trays clattered against plastic chairs. But at the far edge of the room sat Ethan, a boy of 11 with reddish hair that fell into his eyes and a gray hoodie that seemed 2 sizes too big. He always sat by himself. He always avoided eye contact. Today, though, something about him was different. He hunched forward protectively, both arms wrapped around his backpack like it held something too precious to let go. Teachers didn't notice. Kids ignored him as usual. Ethan liked it that way. But deep down, he knew today wouldn't be like the others. The secret inside that bag had started to stir again, shifting slightly, making the zipper strain against his grip. His heart pounded faster each time it moved. At exactly 12:15, the double doors slammed open with a bang that silenced the cafeteria. 2 officers walked in with crisp authority, scanning the room. Behind them padded a German shepherd in a black canine vest, his handler holding a taut leash. The shepherd's head was high, ears pointed, nose twitching as he took in the air, weaving through scents most humans couldn't even imagine. Conversations died, trays froze in knitter, and all eyes turned toward the dog. Whispers spread like sparks across the silence. Why are the police here? What's going on? Who's in trouble? Ethan's breath caught in his throat. He pressed both hands hard against his backpack as if his palms alone could hide the secret squirming inside. But the German shepherd was already moving. His pace quickened, his body lowering into the posture of certainty, pulling harder against the leash with every step. His handler murmured commands, but the dog ignored everything except the invisible trail guiding him straight toward Ethan's corner. When the shepherd reached the table, his reaction was immediate. A sharp, echoing bark shattered the fragile silence so loud it rang against the cafeteria walls. He lunged, placing his front paws on Ethan's table with a thud that rattled the untouched lunch tray. Gasps erupted. Screams followed. Children scrambled back from their chairs, some crying, some frozen in wide-eyed shock. Ethan recoiled, his chair tipping backward, backpack clutched tight to his chest. "No!" he cried, his voice cracking, raw with panic. His eyes darted from the officers to the dog, then to the sea of faces staring at him, the invisibility he had spent years perfecting torn away in an instant. The backpack shuddered against his chest again, and he gripped it even tighter, as if he could will its contents into silence. The dog's handler stepped forward, voice calm but firm. "Son," he said, "my partner doesn't make mistakes. He's trained to find what doesn't belong. We need to see what's in the bag." Ethan shook his head, tears already spilling. "You can't. Please, don't take it." The cafeteria was holding its breath. Every eye was locked on Ethan, every sound swallowed by the tension building in that single corner. The German shepherd's paws remained firmly planted on the table, his chest vibrating with low, steady growls. Nose inches from the backpack, Ethan clutched. The boy's tears blurred his vision, his arms tightening as though the bag were part of him. "Ethan," Officer Daniels, the handler, said in a low voice as he crouched to eye level. "I know you're scared, but Rex isn't wrong. He's telling us there's something here we need to see. He's not here to hurt you. Neither are we. We just need to make sure you're safe." The boy shook his head furiously. His words came out broken. "You don't understand. If you open it, he'll be taken away. You can't let them take him." A ripple of confusion passed through. The adults nearby, Mrs. Taylor, Ethan's homeroom teacher, pushed gently through the circle of children and knelt beside him. "Sweetheart," she whispered, "nobody wants to take you away. We just need to know what's happening." Ethan's sobs grew louder, echoing off the tiled walls. The crowd pressed closer, the cafeteria now a stage with Ethan forced unwillingly into its spotlight. He had been invisible for so long, and now every classmate, every teacher, every staff member stared at him as if he were a stranger revealed. Officer Daniels extended a steady hand. "Let me help you. If it's what I think it is, then you've been carrying this alone too long." For a moment, Ethan squeezed the strap so hard his knuckles turned white. Then, with a defeated gasp, he slid the backpack across the table. The German shepherd whined, tail wagging now, as if he knew the secret inside wasn't danger at all, but something else entirely. The officer pulled the zipper carefully, slowly, as if defusing a bomb. The silence was absolute, broken only by the hum of fluorescent lights overhead. Then came the softest, most unexpected sound, a tiny whimper. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Daniels reached inside and gently lifted out a small bundle wrapped in a faded towel. As he unwrapped it, the truth blinked up at him with wide, dark eyes. A tiny puppy, brown and white, trembling from the sudden light. Its ears flopped, its nose wet, its body fragile in the officer's hands. The cafeteria erupted. Children shrieked with surprise, some shouted. Others rushed forward with awe. "It's a puppy!" Voices cried out. He had a puppy in his bag. Rex's entire demeanor shifted instantly. His tail wagged furiously, ears softening as he nudged toward the bundle with a sniff of recognition. He gave a soft whine, no longer a warning but a greeting. But Ethan wasn't celebrating. He collapsed against the table, face buried in his arms, sobbing openly. The secret he had guarded with everything he had was no longer his alone. The whole school knew now. Officer Daniels studied the boy, then the puppy squirming gently in his hands. "Son," he said softly, "this little one doesn't look dangerous. Tell me, why did you bring him here?" Ethan lifted his head, cheeks wet, voice trembling. "His name is Max. I found him behind the grocery store weeks ago. He was starving, alone. I couldn't leave him. If my stepdad saw him, he said he'd take him away to the shelter. And you know what happens if nobody adopts them." The words hung heavy in the air, sinking into every heart that heard them. This wasn't a prank. This wasn't mischief. It was a desperate act of love from a boy who had nothing but still gave everything. The weight of Ethan's words rippled through the cafeteria like a storm. The students who once whispered about him now stared with a mix of awe and guilt. For years he had been invisible, a boy who kept to himself, who ate little, who spoke less. And now the truth stood in plain sight. He wasn't selfish or strange. He was a boy who had given his own lunch to keep a fragile life alive. Officer Daniels cradled the tiny puppy carefully, his voice softer now. "Ethan, keeping him in your backpack isn't safe, but what you did, it took courage. You saw a life that needed saving, and you didn't turn away." Mrs. Taylor wiped a tear before it could fall. "You've been sharing your meals, haven't you?" she asked gently. Ethan nodded, almost matter of fact. "He's smaller than me. He needed it more." Gasps came from a few classmates. The truth hit them hard. Every half-eaten tray, every untouched sandwich suddenly explained. The boy who everyone thought was odd was simply hungry because he had chosen to give instead of take. Principal Carter stepped forward, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "Ethan, you are not in trouble. What you did shows more kindness than many adults ever show. But we can't let you carry this alone." The boy flinched. "If Frank finds out..." His stepfather's name slipped out like a curse. His eyes darted, fear overtaking him again. Officer Daniels crouched to meet his gaze. "Listen, Max doesn't have to go to a shelter. Rex and I," he nodded toward the shepherd, who now wagged at the puppy like they were old friends, "we can foster him for a while. He'll have space, food, a safe place to stay. Just until we figure this out with your mom. Nobody's taking him away forever." Ethan blinked, hope flickering faintly through the cracks of fear. "You'd really keep him safe?" The officer nodded. "That's a promise." Later, in the principal's office, the phone call to Ethan's mother was filled with pauses and tears. She worked long shifts, she said, barely home, exhausted. She hadn't known the weight her son carried alone. The social worker on the line assured her there were resources, pet food banks, low-cost vets, even community groups that could help families like theirs. For the first time, she sounded like she believed someone was on their side. By the weekend, Max was living with Officer Daniels, romping in the yard with Rex, learning how to sleep in a real dog bed. The officer called Ethan each evening with updates: Max eating well, Max playing, Max safe. And for the first time in years, Ethan felt lighter. When Monday came, things had changed. Instead of whispers or avoidance, classmates approached him with smiles and words he never thought he'd hear. "That was brave. You saved him. You're a hero." Even Sarah from math class stood by his desk and said, "My mom told me what you did was really mature." That afternoon, the best news arrived. The family qualified for assistance. The vet offered free care. And Frank, the stepdad who had once said no, agreed to try because even he could see the way Ethan's eyes lit up when Max was near. Daniels walked through the school doors carrying the puppy. Ethan could barely breathe. Max wriggled wildly, tail wagging, leaping into his arms as though no time had passed. Rex circled them both, tail thumping against desks like a drumbeat of approval. Ethan held Max tight, burying his face in his fur, inhaling the familiar scent. In just days, everything had shifted. He was no longer invisible, no longer alone. Mrs. Taylor stood at the doorway, wiping at her eyes. "I think this is just the beginning of good things for you, Ethan." Walking out to his mother's car, with Max in his arms and Rex trotting loyally beside him, Ethan allowed himself to believe she might be right.